We have got a Midpoint FEH Channel and also a new banner, so I'll be explaining everything to bring you up to the speed. And we have got Aether Raids in the FEH Channel as our upcoming boss, and he is confirmed to be a colorless Beast Cavalier. We also have his full artwork and it's just amazing. So this is his Beast Sprite, and whenever he dies, he's probably going to be becoming some kind of mythic, I'm hoping. And then we also have Aether Raids, and she's also going to be a Beast Cavalier most likely, and also another unit who's going to be a mythic unit after dying. And then we've got the main antagonist of Book 8 and Leonardo. So he is the other self of Yggdrasil basically, and he is father of Ratatoskr, Endogre, and Resfelger. We also have the midpoint quests and celebrations, so the login bonus is going to be giving you a lot of heroic grails, so it can be helpful if you're building up a lot of grail units. And then we also get 3 orbs from the celebratory quest, so that is the bare minimum that they have done. We're also going to be getting divine codes, which is also good. The crystals are not really the biggest deal. And then we also have a returning new hero summoning event, so this is where the Aether rerun for June is going to be going, and also Aether's rerun as we saw in the schedule. So I'm definitely going to be sparking on the Aether banner because it's really good for value if you're trying to plus and merge that kind of hero, and she's a merge project for me for my Astra core. Aether similarly is going to be also really good, and each event is going to be lasting for 4 days, so not a lot of time for you to summon. And then we have got something unique in Double Hero Rises bottom 8. So that just goes to show you how the regular Hero Rises banner didn't really do all that well financially, that they had to do something like this. So the other contestants are going to be present there, and this is going to be a more high value banner than actual Hero Rises in my opinion, even though it's not the all green color share like many people did want. But still, like, the value of the units on each color is amazing. Duo Sanaki is still pretty good. Winter Byleth is basically the second best Far Savior after Valentine Myr, and Veil is also a core mythic merge for many people. New Year's Aether is still pretty nice for the ending action, not as insane as Valentine Leon. And then we have got Winter Edelgard, the best Gale Force unit in the game, Winter Altina, who's also one of the best Omni tanks, Legendary Camilla, and Mythic Galvik, which a lot of people are going to be wanting. So there is going to be Spark on this banner as well, and it is not going to be having any kind of off-focus 5-star unit. So this is going to be a pretty nice banner for many people, and we're also going to be getting tickets for this banner, 5 tickets. So this is going to be helping you if you're sparking any kind of hero. And then we have got a new game mode in United Warfront. So this is kind of like a co-op mode, but not really. So use the proxy units sent by your friends, and if your units and the friends units are from the same title, you get the bonus. So if you've got a lot of friends of different games, then it is going to be helping you get those extra stats. And I don't really think that this is going to be the hardest, game mode, but at least it's not auto battle affinity, so that's definitely a positive. I kind of wish that we had the real-time co-op mode, but maybe we get that like next year, or maybe next year if FEH survives until then. So it seems like an amalgamation of Arena Assault and Allegiance Battle, so it can definitely be fun, but it's not going to be lasting too many days, so you have to do it in those days and in that time frame. We also have a Midpoint banner, and we don't really have any kind of mythic OC in the Midpoint banner like last year, for example. So we've got Edward as a sword infantry unit, and he has got Khalid Polk as his preferred weapon. This gives him -1 special cooldown, making godlike reflexes as a 2 cooldown special, and then he can get extra stats in the combat depending on 25% of foes attack at start of combat subtracted with 4. So this can go up to max 14, and it's pretty much about you would expect on a modern weapon. And then it also has the Null Guard effect built in, and also gives you 50% damage reduction piercing. So it does help against a lot of the nukes that have a lot of damage reduction. And then you also have the special cooldown jump -1 before foe's first attack. So the special jumping can definitely be helpful for looping godlike reflexes. And then he gets up to 16 flat damage reduction in the combat if foe triggers a special, except for AoEs, and if they don't, then he has at least 8 flat damage reduction. And then he has got the damage reflection that we have seen before on stuff like Ice Mirror. So basically all the damage that you reduce, you're going to be doing true damage back on your next attack. So that is definitely helpful when you're going to be running damage reduction skills like godlike reflexes on your Edward, and also Buffer 4, which he comes with. but he has got the stat spread where he can easily make use of Lagoose Friend because his defense is actually pretty high at base 43. But I don't think he's going to be living long enough in the barracks of many people to see that day, because he has got Breath of Life 4, and this is going to be a game changer for tanks. So basically for the unit that's running this skill, and if they're in 2 spaces of an ally, it gives them the benefit and the allies in 2 spaces for their combats, the X HP healing, which is going to be getting triggered after the pre-combat damage. So you're going to be getting 2 kinds of healing. Either you have more defense than the foe, then you're going to be getting 20% of your max HP, and you will also add the difference in defense multiplied by 4. So you're going to be getting a lot of healing, and if you don't meet the defense check, then you're at least going to be getting 20% healing of your max HP. And there is a cap of the max HP healing you can get, so you can get max 40% healing of your max HP along with the pre-combat damage taken, and it does not really stack, so you can only run like 3 Breath of Life 4 units and just get insane amounts of healing. And it also gives +4 defense in combat and reduces the effect of deep wound status by 50%, so it also allows you to get a bit of healing. So this is going to be a game changer for many of the tanks, because pre-combat damage has been wreaking havoc ever since we got Flared Sparrow on Brave Gullwig, and we just have been getting more insane pre-combat damage. So this is going to be countering that, and it also helps against the AoE specials. So this is going to be a big thing for, you know, units like Emblem Ike, or just any kind of tank or a tank support unit, because even if you don't run this on your main tank, you can still get the benefit out of this by having a tank support unit within 2 spaces of that unit. So it helps you with the healing, and definitely helps the units that have more defense than the enemy nukes, and the enemy nukes are probably going to be stacking up attack and speed and maybe resistance, but a lot of them are not going to be having high enough defense, so that's where you can meet the defense checks and pretty much get more healing. So this is going to be an amazing tier 4 version of Breath of Life, which is going to be helping the tanks, and Emblem Ike is already pretty insane as a tank, and basically what was keeping him in check was Fatal Smoke on many of the nukes and the AoE damage and the pre-combat damage, but now he has got that with Breath of Life 4, and the deep wounds reduction is also going to be stacking up most likely with units like Young Lissa and Brave Claude, so that is going to be helping them. And again, Fatal Smoke is a really big part of the metagame, especially in Aether Raids, so reducing the effect of deep wound status is a big thing by 50%, and like I said, some units can actually stack this up, so it is going to be helping them. And a lot of people are just going to be foddering Edward on their rearmed or attuned unit and just duplicating this fodder because it's too valuable of a skill, and this is going to be also a big game changer in Pawns of Loki, because that game mode is absolutely insane with the units that we've got nowadays. So it is going to be helping you get more HP and always pretty much have the max HP. So that is going to be Edward, the premier fodder unit for many of the tanks, but he himself is actually a pretty good God Sword with that flat damage reduction he can get, and also the special jumping, and also the damage reflection, which can definitely help him. And if you're a big Edward fan, then you could run him with Lagoose Friend. Then we've got Leonardo as a colorless infantry archer, and unfortunately he doesn't get a preferred weapon like Edward, so that's a big bummer, but still it's one of the better inhittable bows because it's kind of like the Halloween weapons that we've seen before on Halloween Seadoll. So it has got the bonus doubler 4 built in, and it also gives you the visible buff of attack +6 and resistance +6 to yourself and the allies in 2 spaces. So this can definitely be stacked up with bonus doubler in the slot A and also in the Sacred Seal, but at higher investments you can definitely try and run some other weapon. You also get attack resistance finish 3 at 5 stars, so that's a very important scale if you want to get the tier 4 version of this, along with some other premium fodder. So I'm glad that they're putting the tier 3 version of the finish skills in the normal summoning pool. We really need that attack speed finish badly, because there's only one Young Rebecca in the Divine Codes, and if you have a lot of fodder units with attack speed finish 4, then you really need that, you know, prerequisite fodder. So he's going to be functioning as a bit more of a bulkier archer on the resistance side at base 36 resistance, and he can definitely try and make use of his high attack at base 44, which does have a super boon. He's not the fastest, but still he is fast enough to speed stack, especially with something like this kind of weapon, which has got bonus doubler 4 built in. I just wish he got his preferred weapon, which definitely stings compared to the other units from the banner. And we also have the Rearmed unit and Rearmed Sothe. So he's a colorless infantry dagger, just like his original version, but he's upgraded now, and his stat spread is for the modern times with 47 base speed, which is going to be a super boon, and 43 base attack. So he brings Arcane Tempest as the new dagger, especially for the faster dagger units, and I'm going to be making a full video going over the best users of this and the builds that he can run. So it gives you minus on special cooldown, and it also has Time Pulse 3 built in. Now this is a big thing for many of the cavalry daggers and flying daggers because they don't have easy access to the pulse effects like infantry daggers do. So it's not the most insane on the infantry daggers, but can definitely help you with some of the fun builds. And then it gives you plus 14 to all of your stats at max. So I guess now we're going to be having arcane weapons that give you plus 14 to all of your stats at max, which is definitely a step up from the other arcane weapons. And then you also get 30% damage reduction on foes' first attacks, including the brave hits. And then finally, if you've got more speed than the foe, you get the full null follow-up effect. So the full null follow-up effect is what is going to be helpful for many of the fast dagger units, especially the dagger cavaliers and dagger flyers. And he also comes with a exclusive special on Bane. So this is not an inhibitable special, and with Arcane Tempest, this is going to be a 1 cooldown special that he pre-charges because of the time pulse in his weapon, and then he can trigger it again in that single round of combat because of having the Pled skill. And when this special triggers, it gives you the full damage reduction piercing. So if you have used Bane in the other games, then it is not going to be similar to that where you always do that kind of damage and always leave the enemy at 1 HP. That is not going to be happening in FEH because we have got flat damage reduction and the unpierceable damage reduction from many of the skills, which is not going to be accounted when his damage is going to be getting set. So that is something you'll have to account for, and the pierceable damage reduction as it is does get pierced by the special on the special trigger, but still it can be really helpful in getting the kills. So it can be a bit confusing with the way they have worded, but basically you're not always going to be leaving the enemy at 1 HP if they're a modern unit with some kind of flat damage reduction or unpierceable damage reduction. So it improves your damage output, and offensively it also gives you that damage reduction piercing, which is amazing for a 1 cooldown special that he's able to pre-charge. And it also gives him the 30% damage reduction from foe's next attack if the special is ready or triggered. So this is the kind of beacon damage reduction that we have seen before, and this is going to be unpierceable. So even defensively, this helps Sothe get to that potent follow-up attack and the regular double. So Bane as a special does a lot of heavy lifting for Sothe as an exclusive skill, and he also has pretty amazing kit with attack speed finish for Potent Disarm. So Potent Disarm is basically going to be Disarm Trap 4, but it's going to be trading the half null follow-up for the potent follow-up attack. So it is going to be having that speed check for the potent follow-up attack, which a lot of the times the modern dagger units are going to be able to get. And it's definitely a pretty nice option along with the full null follow-up that you get out of his weapon. So it is going to be helpful on many of the dagger units, but if you are not going to be using his dagger, then you don't really have full null follow-up. In that case, Disarm Trap is still, a bit better for getting that half null follow-up. So Potent is a bit of a niche effect. It can definitely help you as an offensive unit, but it's not too insane. And then Finish 4 is an amazing slotted skill for so many units, especially when you're going to be triggering specials like Sothe. And Attack Speed Pledge is also a valuable skill for many of the infantry units, so he's not going to be going away from your barracks if you use him for inheritance because he's a rearmed unit, and that is going to be a huge thing for his value. And then he has got his special, which is going to be making it a lot easier for you to get the kills. And it's an amazing special that pierces 100% of the damage reduction. And here we're going to be seeing Bane in action, so it is going to be making Edelgard fall to 1 HP as she was not going to get killed. But if this was a modern unit with any kind of flat damage reduction or unpierceable damage reduction, then she would have lived with more than 1 HP. So obviously this does help you get the kills. And then we have got Attuned Micaiah as a green mage flyer this time, just like Brave Micaiah, but she's much better than Brave Micaiah and also Yune. Probably better than both of those combined in my opinion, because she can provide the amazing debuffs and also take advantage of it. So just like legendary Micaiah, she does have Maiden Solace, but it's a pretty outdated assist when you already do the harsh command thing with your weapon. So she's got Silver of Dawn, and it has got the patented armor and cavalry effectiveness that she's known for, and she also has the Omni Guidance built in. So just like Ashe and legendary Alencia are going to be having that Omni Warping to any kind of ally in 2 spaces, and they can warp to 2 spaces of you. So it is going to be a useful thing because she doesn't really have to run Soaring Guidance as her slot skill or even as her attune skill. So that just frees it up from that, and you also have the flexibility of having this being applied to the armor and cavalry units. And at start of enemy phase, she's going to be healing up herself and the allies in 2 spaces for 10 HP, so good passive healing. And after the start of turn effects have triggered in the enemy phase, it is going to be converting any kind of debuff on herself and the allies in 2 spaces into a buff. So it pretty much does the thing that Harsh Command does, but without using your action, which is amazing. And it also neutralizes the first 2 penalty status effects on Micaiah herself. This is not something that she gives away to her allies in 2 spaces, and it's only going to be applied to her. So you can click the eye icon on your unit and see which are the 2 negative status effects, which this is going to be cleansing. It's a really big thing because we haven't really seen this kind of penalty status cleansing before. And this is going to be unique to Micaiah, at least for now. Maybe in the future we see this on more of the tanks, so they're able to just cleanse themselves with any kind of exposure or negative status of the enemy. This is what I kind of wanted on Fallen Ike's weapon refined, so that he can get rid of the ploy status. But yeah, that's basically going to be the support that she's able to provide. And then for the actual weapon, it is going to be inflicting -6 attack and resistance on the foe, and inflicts even more debuffs on the foe to their attack and resistance depending on her visible resistance. So it is going to be mattering 20%. And you also have dull attack resistance in her weapon, so you ignore any kind of visible buffs to their attack and resistance. And finally, she gets true damage based on the number of allies in 3 rows and 3 columns centered on her. And this can go all the way up to 15, so she can get max 15 true damage. And she's going to be hitting really hard with that base 47 attack. And especially with her slot B skill, which is going to be giving her the exposure status on the enemy. And it basically has the Omni Chill effect, like we have seen before on Yoon. So it is going to be checking for the highest attack speed, defense, or resistance. And then it targets that foe and also debuffs the foes that are in 2 spaces of them. So it splashes onto the other foes. And you also get the exposure status and the discord status on those foes. So this is going to be really useful for Micaiah with this kind of slot B skill. So she can convert the debuffs on herself and the allies in 2 spaces into buffs while she debuffs the enemies, and just has this exposure status on them as well, which is going to be adding to her true damage and one-shot potential. So she hits incredibly hard, and she can get a big stat swing with the debuff to opponents' attack and resistance. And there's actually a translation error here, and there's no foe penalty doubler effect on foes' attack and resistance. Instead, it is a different kind of effect that we haven't really seen before. It is going to be inflicting more attack and resistance on the foe in the combat depending on their highest total debuffs among the target and the foes in 2 spaces of the target foe. So even if the foe has got the debuff neutralization, you're still going to be able to debuff them, and this is why she does such a big stat swing to the attack and resistance of the enemy. And it also improves her offensive prowess by giving her that 50% damage reduction piercing. So similar to Duo Micaiah, she has got that damage reduction shredding, which flying units don't really get usually. So this is going to be a really useful slot B skill, which you wouldn't really have to change compared to Brave Micaiah. And she comes with Fortress Echo as the attune skill. So this is going to be a helpful skill on the ranged cavalry and flying units, which just want to run some other slot B skill and don't want to run the Fortress skill. And you also get attack resistance Crux on Micaiah, which is again another good supportive effect, which she's going to be able to give out to her allies and give them the guaranteed follow-up attack. And it just stacks up the attack and resistance debuff. So she can do a lot of debuff on those 2 stats and hit really hard, which we pretty much expect out of Micaiah. But this is the most modern Micaiah until we get Emblem Micaiah, who's probably going to be a healer, I guess. But this Micaiah can also help the allies by harsh commanding their debuffs into buffs, which is something that we haven't really seen before on any kind of support unit. And overall, she does give you the value as the attuned unit. We also have Jarod as our Grand Hero Battle unit. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a preferred weapon, and he just has Null Spear Plus, so it's a decent weapon. At least it gives you the full null follow-up. But he's going to be having Pulse Smoke 3 at 5-star, which is really amazing, and no Grail unit has got that. So it's an amazing skill to be added into the free-to-play pool. And this makes me think that we're probably going to be getting the tier 4 version of this skill. His other skill is Wind Boost, which is nothing really to write home about. So overall, this Tellius banner has some amazing value with a rearmed unit and an attuned unit, good for the skill inheritance, and both of them are really strong. And even if Edward is mainly going to be used for Breath of Life 4, he still is going to be able to function as a tank because of the flat damage reduction that he gets out of his weapon. And Leonardo is going to be popping up if you're trying to get Sothe, so that's going to be something you'll need to watch out for, but his fodder is good for the bridging if you have the tier 4 version of the finished skill. You can click the link on his screen right now to check out my review of the refines of this month, including Fallen Ike, and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Nolan being present on this banner. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.